They can see us. They can hear me. Bryan needs to talk for me to know if they can. Nope. Oh, it's because it went to defaults. Always does that.
It
Always does
always goes to default. It literally always goes, not always, but like I feel like it's a good 35% of the time, which is more than it should.
Yeah, and default's never the right answer. You were told what your default is. Like all these are, at
hmm
least on OBS, they're set to this is what this works with, and that's it, nothing else. And that's like, oh, or hear me out. No,
I just saw this little guy just fall off my monitor and land right in front of me.
I can't see him. He's too
Oh,
blurry. What is it?
he's a, it's like a little tiny cricket or oh, and he jumped again. Okay, I don't know where he is. Well,
Hopefully, he doesn't
enjoy
end
your
up eating
life, little
soda.
buddy. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we haven't done one of these in a while because life sucks. You
This is
older,
necessarily fully
and
that. It's also we've been busy. Like that's what being an
well, yeah,
adult is.
that was what my next part was going. Life sucks because things get so fucking busy. And yeah, but we try to fit things in where we can, and this is where Conlan and I said no. It has been too long since we had a disaster cast and just bullshitted for an hour. So we're gonna try to do one a week, maybe one every 2 weeks if we have like a really busy week. But we definitely are gonna get on a better schedule. We promise, we think.
I think every 2 weeks is much more realistic than the every week because the likelihood
Yeah,
of one of us having a week where we go, no, I'm going the fuck to bed is very high.
probably. Or one of those weeks where I tell you I'm gonna wake up, and then the whole week I don't wake up to my early alarm.
Yeah, we've been a whole week and a half that we've attempted to schedule this that Bryan's just slept in. I've been like, okay, whatever, bud.
Yeah, I had a couple fucking weeks at work. Oh my God. But that is not what we're here to talk about. Uh,
At least not yet.
let's, yeah. Um, well, let's try to intro
Hi, welcome
now
to
because we'll
DisasterCast.
forget
This is where we
later.
sometimes talk about D&D. Um, heavy on the sometimes.
We will talk about last session in D&D because I definitely want your opinion on how that went.
Terribly. Uh, I'm Conlan Rose. I play Bracket, Rain, Greg, Altook. There we go. I remembered it. Even though we've never put that
hmm
back out on YouTube because of pure laziness. That's it.
All
Nothing
right, we
else.
are we are getting Callum on a future disaster cast, and we are going to be setting times for you guys to finally put that up because I told you I will watch all of it once it's on YouTube. That was my motivation for you guys to get it up there.
I know, but you're gonna be so disappointed that we ended it because of stress, because it was just getting good.
Well, hey, then I could maybe encourage you guys to do a couple final sessions if Callum's other friends will get online.
That's the hardest getting everyone together. Everyone's in a different place in
Yeah,
life since we did that show, since we did that set.
yeah.
So
But hey, I am Brian Creevy. I am the DM, the Disaster Master.
so
Um, I haven't played a character on here other than my NPCs, but I did play some of my my actual PCs as NPCs. So I can say like normal, and then also Torian. For all those of you guys who saw the heist session, which if you're here, more than likely you saw our heist stream. It's like 40%
of
of
our
our
content.
content.
Hi, this is gonna be 3 sessions.
I'm never gonna live that down. I really am not.
I never have
Like,
you
you guys are gonna be
underestimate anything
reminding me.
so gravely.
I literally, I literally, okay, for those of you who have joined us in the past 3 years before we started the heist, back at the beginning of the heist, this was like in the height of COVID. Like, we just did 10 sessions in Humblewood and ended that little mini series. That was awesome. we wanted to get Callum back into play because he stopped for a little bit in COVID. And I was like, all right, hey, so we joked about that party of all rogues thing back at the last couple sessions of the Misfits. So let me throw together like a one shot or like a short series of episodes for a heist. And I literally laid out the intro session, how to get tickets to the gala, vague ideas of what the gala were, and what the heist was, like where the magic cash was and like who was defending it. I had that stuff laid out in a general, like, all right, I can eat before each session, I can write and get this stuff done. And then you guys just made each of those parts their own fucking like mini series. Each one took like a year.
I don't know. Like, in my head, I admittedly didn't think it would be that many sessions, but I was like, 3, Bryan's dreaming. 10, maybe.
10, maybe, if Callum wasn't in the party. If Aileen, Wind Whisper,
even without Wind Whisper, Aileen, whatever he calls himself at the given moment.
Seabreeze.
Because he wasn't like the only problem. Like, we all got distracted all the time.
He wasn't the only problem, but he definitely was one of them. Sorry, this thing was like destroying my back.
You don't need that. Those are optional.
Dude. My backs? No. I see, I am starting, and I know you've been dealing with it all your life, so this is not a pity party for me, but I am starting in the past like 4 years to have body pain like regularly, and like it sucks. I try to stretch all the time. True. Oh, I forgot to take my pills this morning. I'll do it after stream. I forget to take my pills at night, but so my doctor said it's okay to take it first thing in the morning, and sometimes I forget to take them first thing in the morning.
ADD, ADHD, what a fun little thing. If you don't build routine, you die.
It is wild that my like therapist, psychologist that I had, I don't have them anymore, but like they genuinely did not think I had ADD simply off of the fact that
you did well in school.
I did good in school. Like, I
it's not
hate
an
that
actual symptom.
process.
It is a what the fuck you doing, computer? Well, I have an issue where the Razer software every once in a while will freak out, and I will lose control of the volume control on my keyboard.
That's going to be the thumbnail, by the way. I took an opportunity.
Oh wow, staring at trying to open Razer Synapses and glaring at it because I need to open it in the background.
You were paused with a finger pointed very curiously and like contemplative, so I'm like, ooh, that's a nice image, let me copy it.
I mean, seriously, it's anger. It's because I need to at one point take my keyboard apart and desolder one of these components because it literally is broken as hell. If left without the Razer software disabling it, there's something wrong with this potentiometer, which is like, like a dial. Dial that it thinks it's always going. So when the software is not running and it's not disabled, it will just set my volume to 100%. And you can't unset it. It'll just go right back because it's thinking it's turning it on.
That's hilariously stupid. Oh my god.
It's obnoxious. The amount of times I've, like, my computer's woken up without me being in the room because fucking Windows is dog shit. And I've, like, come in, but cool, let me play my YouTube, sit down, have my dinner. Cool, let me play my YouTube video. Comes out 100% volume. My normal volume's 35.
Dude,
I use 100% to turn music on to, like, listen to it throughout, like, me, like, doing laundry and shit when I'm nowhere near my computer. I never use it 100% unless I'm, like, not in the room with the computer. Like, when I'm, like, off to the side, like, getting, like, crap ready for camping and whatnot. I'll use it at like 70. I never use it at 100.
Thankfully, my keyboard has done phenomenal with no issues since we got the new one last year, because the first one died within a couple of months, or at least started having weird fucking stupid issues with the volume as well.
It's
But no, this one has been good.
I don't know if it's just because however they do it, must pull that device a lot, and that I don't know how the
Hey,
hardware or software side works. Because I love my keyboard.
hey,
I have enough cable. I love this keyboard. I love how it types. But I very much hate the fact that it will randomly set my volume to 100%. At least I figure out what the
when did
solve is
you
for
buy
it.
it?
It's at
When did you
least
buy it?
3 or 4 years old.
Okay, so that's what my last keyboard was. It was about 4 years old because we returned it within the 2 year warranty or exchanged it. So maybe in the in the 4 years from then to now, maybe they upgraded the volume button with some like, hey, sticky stuff so it doesn't just randomly start
Well,
sliding
it's not.
and
It's
stuff like that.
spinning because it's. How do I describe this? I know
Sorry, I'm
how.
not a techie person.
Yeah, no, that's
He
the
is a techie
problem.
person.
I'm just like, so essentially, the value it's giving is making a value that is changing, but it's never physically moving. It just means it's calibrated to that particular. Uh, my brain's forgetting potentiometer wrong.
Hmm.
So it's giving an errant value because its base value is a number instead of zero.
Hmm.
That's the problem. Is its base value became instead of zero, it became one. That means it's always putting one in, which means it's always going up. Because that's
Hmm.
how it's on off. That's how they design things with computers.
So maybe they did something to prevent that, because if a lot of these were having issues 4 years ago, because remember, mine had that volume issue, and I bought it 4 years ago.
It could just be
Maybe
how
they learned
potentiometers
enough.
work because they're an analog device in a digital world. So
Well, we can hope that manufacturers learn from their mistakes and feedback. We can hope.
my face didn't change. So what do you think? They're putting
Con
AI in like baking apps. Like world's on
Everything
fire, bud.
has AI now.
Which
Hmm.
none of it works, by the way. Like not like I know the point of it using it now is so that way you teach the model and it learns blah 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 blah. But like
And we are
it's
the
made
trial
things
period.
it's made things actively worse for everything. Voice to text was bad before when they switched from so Google's now had 3 or 4 models that they've used for their voice to text on Gboard. So the
Hmm.
first model was the early model. It was pretty meh. But then they added a new machine learning algorithm that learned your voice and kept data on you, which was a privacy concern, but at least it meant it fucking worked. And then
Hmm.
eventually, when Motorola added their chip on board their phones to help Gboard do processing and do all the processing on the phone, it made it even faster. And then I was like, holy shit, this works. And I use voice to text for everything from that point
Oh,
on.
Sam fucking loved voice to text 3 years ago.
Yeah,
She absolutely loathes how the app
it doesn't
like
work at all.
registers your
There's no
voice now.
purpose to
It
it. It
doesn't.
can be disabled. I have it turned
Hmm.
off
It lit-
on sections of my
they
phone now.
sh they should have had an option like to choose, hey, old voice to text or be on the new
It's
system,
the
because the corp
revolution. Don't you understand? It's
yes,
new
yes,
technology. It's better because we
yes,
said so.
but still, come on, you have to. Everybody could do with some humility. Companies and manufacturers could do with some humility. Just
We are
hold
Google.
on,
We can do no wrong. You shall now only see
hold.
forum posts from 2004 when you search for things.
But
I'm dead
literally, if
serious. The
you
amount of
can
things I
just.
search now, I just get dead forum links.
Hmm.
Because that is a quarter of the internet, admittedly, is just dead forum links and shit. Because how many forum pages there were for everything. So you search anything.
Hmm.
And like the top 2 results are ads, maybe the top 8, depending on how popular what you're searching is. for me, it's usually weird, specific. I don't have a speech impediment. Things for my truck, and the 6.5 trucks are just not super popular. So like, it's half of the comments are people who owned them in 2004 who are like, "Oh man, these trucks are getting a little old in the little old and slow. Can we get spicing them up?" And no one had parts for them back in '04. So like, everyone was talking about the concept of parts. So I can't search the parts that
Mm-hmm.
are made currently, but I can find guys complaining about 2004 when there was no tunes, no parts, no nothing, which is very frustrating. Uh, and that's everything.
But
Like, that's when
it
they add AI to Google search and they made it 10 times worse.
it really should, like, seriously though, like I know it's a stupid point and it's never gonna happen, but I think those things are still worth mentioning so people know that other
Yeah,
people
no,
are
it's
thinking these
worth
same
yelling
things.
about.
Humility is something corporations should have. You need to know that you are not perfect and you are making a product for people. So hear what the people have to say about your product and make it better. So you keep them coming back to your product. Like, it's not that hard. It's something I actually do like about my job. It is a very feedback driven
Mm-hmm.
environment, even up the corporate chain. Like, there are videos quarterly on, hey, we heard your feedback, this is what we're doing now to implement it. Like, that's what every corporation needs to do for their products, but just not. Like, because they want to be the top tech right now, the most ambitious, the one of a kind, the revolutionary tech, like just how the smartphone came out and changed everything. But
I
like,
think they should be
just
banned.
every smartphones. Oh
Yep.
my God, I was just thinking that the other day. Cell phones in
This
high school
experiment
for
failed.
us
We're
were
done.
fine.
Flip phones for everyone. We're moving on.
See, cell phones and early smartphones were fine, I think.
Well, I
But
think
the
the
more we
problem is actually
started to
people, but
incorporate them,
I'm just being an asshole.
well, yes, smartphones did bring the computer to your pocket at that point. I have to admit that.
Conceptually, this is the greatest thing. A little rectangle. Shut up. No one cares about your opinions. A little rectangle. A little rectangle. I like my little rectangle. It's gonna wake up again because it sees a face and it thinks it should wake up. See, because phones are
Ooh, Conlan, I have
morons.
I have your face reflecting right now
Oh,
in
good.
my
I'm
phone.
amazed. It's not waking up like my phone does every 2 seconds. In theory, amazing. These should be the great and I don't not like my phone in the amazing ways it is, but there's so many things I hate about modern phones that is gotten to a point where I'm like, no what? If they went away, that'd be better because I'd go use my computer and that works. Because 90% of
You
the time,
have to.
I'll search something on one of the apps, whether it be Walmart's app or whatever, whoever's app it is for shopping, to like search for a product to see, hey, is it in the store near me? And the app won't work. But if I go on the website, it works fine. Because the app's trying to sell you so much stuff that it's too busy selling you things. So you can't actually use it.
Hmm.
And the Walmart app's bad about that. That's like a specific real bad case where like you search something, the first 10 fucking options are sponsored things you only can order online. And then it starts
Hmm.
showing you things in the store and you're like, I don't need this. Well, in the online, are there sponsored things? Yeah, but it seems they haven't updated it as quickly as they've done. I'm sure they're making more money on the app than they are in the online, so they're focusing on getting
Hmm.
more sponsored content in it. And I don't fully blame them for doing that as a business trying to make more money. It's not a dumb thing, but you have to remember there's a point in time where you're taking away from the experience so heavily that I'm no longer going to use your app. I deleted
Yeah.
Snapchat. Like, I'm not using that anymore.
Again, going
Gone.
right there to humility. Understand you are not perfect. Listen to the feedback of your consumers and make positive change that they want, not what you think your app should go towards in the future. Obviously, have a vision for it, but at the end of the day, you got to remember what these corporations are doing all of this for. it's for the people. It's actually for money, but it should be for the people.
Well, actually, it's now only for money ever since I forgot when that law was pushed and passed, where essentially the goal of the CEO and the top like executives is now their only goal is for positive growth for the shareholders. They have no other purpose of being in charge. They are not supposed to do anything to help make the product better. They only need to make positive growth. And if they don't make positive growth, they can be fired, no consequence. Which means that they all are
Yeah,
forced, essentially, to not lose their job to only create positive growth. Which I think should be overturned
yeah.
because it's clearly lighting everything on fire. Is it making company
Like
go up? Yes, but guess what? At the detriment to zero products working.
mhm.
In
It
3 or 4 years,
shouldn't
I
come
won't have a phone. Why? They don't work. I don't need something that doesn't work. I'm going to try iPhone because I'm going to see, does this work? And if that doesn't work, I'm getting a flip phone and done with smartphones. I'll use my computer. It works 90% better.
so I don't have as bad an experience as you with phones that work for the Galaxy works has been working for me fine since I switched to it from iPhone.
Well, you've also been smart enough
Obviously,
to
it's
keep up with the newest one. So you've not
roughly
gotten.
within a couple generations.
I know, but like you never go more than 3 years on a device.
Hmm. Yeah.
And what's good about that is something I did for a long time until recently because I got a new flagship device and it was dog shit. And I went, never mind, I'll go back to the Pixel 5. At least I could type on the keyboard. The touchscreen tuning on my Pixel 7 is you might as well not have a touchscreen on it. Like, you should just plug a keyboard and mouse into it because then you can use the device.
The one thing I have an
And that's a
issue
flagship
with
device.
the one thing I have an issue with on here right now is I'm drawing a blank on what I'm doing before this that causes it, but when I'm closing out of something, I don't know if it's like a phone call or something, it comes back to the same screen. Sometimes I want to go to YouTube and then I click here and nothing happens, and then I realize, oh, none of my apps are working. I have to turn off my phone and then I turn it, not turn off, but just like lock it and then unlock it and then it
It's like it's
works.
stuck in half locked. Yeah, I have that sometimes on
Hmm.
phone calls. Um, one of the new issues I've been having, which I think is not 100% at fault of the developers, I will say that. I'll be nice, but very much their fault. Um, is on Android, the back button is getting more erratic. Where if it will work properly or if it will just close out an app. Because it used to be,
Really?
it's because there a lot more apps are porting over the iPhone app
Hmm.
instead of just making a
Okay.
separate Android app. They just take the iPhone app and port it to Android and say good enough. So that means that it's using a launcher essentially to run in like a non-native mode. So it's translating those button presses to how an iPhone would react. Which means that doesn't always happen. It's like there's like a translation layer, which is not fully the fault of the app developer initially, because they were making the iPhone app. That was their job. But it's the fault of
Hmm.
people who are swapping the app to work on Android and not making sure all the features work right.
Cutting corners to
Yeah,
save on money.
yeah, and like I bet those
It
developers
it
have.
should be like you said. If you fuck up and you're the head of the company, you step down, you get fired, you get sacked. Whoever caused the fuck up, like it
No,
shouldn't
positive
have to
growth,
get to
positive growth,
disaster.
positive growth,
It
positive growth, positive
it
growth, positive
it
growth, positive growth, positive growth.
it should not get to the point of needing to like resign because your company is so publicly fucked up, like Boeing. Um,
Well, that's
but
a lot of that is actually not. This is a weird sentence. It's I'm going to blame another company because Boeing acquired them. The two companies merged. So a lot of from my understanding, a lot of the fucky wuckiness of Boeing right now is not Boeing, like the original Boeing. It is the people from McDonnell Douglas who came into Boeing during the merger and became like
mhm.
executives now. Because that's the reason why a merger happened. McDonnell Douglas wasn't doing very well except for in their military contracts. They had lost all of their commercial contracts.
Hmm.
That's why Boeing is able to acquire them so easily.
Yeah, because
But
they
that means
became
they had
such a
to integrate
small
all
entity.
those upper management people into Boeing, which means all that poison that was in there already killing the company was just injected into Boeing. And that's why we've seen this corner cutting and stuff like that. That's something that was happening at McDonnell Douglas. That's why you notice that
Hmm.
Boeing's aerospace and Boeing's military contracts have not been negatively affected at all. Because, well, A, you don't fuck up those contracts with the US government. That's how you ruin a company. Because they just hand you
Hmm.
money. So you
You
don't fuck
do
up that
everything
relationship.
by the books when it's the military.
Well, it's especially because if you don't, you go before Congress and get asked, why did you fuck up? And then you get fined back the money they handed you. So that way they can
Yeah.
give it to your competitor who didn't fuck up. The U.S. is very open about how we deal with military contracts. It's how we minimize corruption. There's still corruption, obviously, but it's how we
Hmm.
always minimize this, being like, just remember, we don't only have to choose you. You're competing.
Who is Boeing's competitor?
Boeing's competitor in flight, so let's say commercial flights, is Airbus, and it's really only Boeing and Airbus because Airbus bought Embraer, who was the other big manufacturer of smaller jets, of like the 737 size aircraft. But
Hmm.
Airbus is their biggest competitor. But Airbus only has like a 30% or 40% margin.
So
But in
honestly,
Europe, the problem is, which is why Airbus is struggling and upset that Boeing fucked up, is in Europe, Airbus has like a 70+% margin, and it's going up, which means the EU will file monopoly charges against Airbus if Boeing doesn't fix their shit. Which is why Airbus is like, guys, we had a balance here, and you fucked the balance, and now we're gonna get fucked by
mhm.
because of your mistake. Because now their
Yeah,
share is
no,
going up too high, and it's going to be hit by because they bought up a couple small other aircraft manufacturers in the EU.
so now there's only two at that point, two
Yeah, so
major
now they're
ones.
going to be broken
But
up,
it's
and they're not even that big
honestly
of a company.
there is very little checks on companies becoming a monopoly.
Yeah, that's why
Like
it's the
they,
EU is actually good about that shit. Here in the US, we have not
mhm.
done a good job recently.
Like for everything. Like if you think of Google,
Yeah,
what are you gonna think of its competitor, Bing? Everybody knows of Bing, but nobody
and
uses
Microsoft
Bing.
isn't actually competing with them. They have Bing because they know they need to compete in the space because they need data. They don't care if Bing works.
Hmm.
They want the data from Bing. That's it. Data for Bing is just useful to help Microsoft do their job for the rest of their apps. Because know where Microsoft makes money? Windows license, services like Word and whatnot. That's where they make all their bread and butter, and selling that all to companies. That's where
Hmm.
Microsoft makes money. They don't give a shit about any other part of the business. Even gaming, they're like, we're not really making money, but we can't stop doing this at this point because we've been doing it too long.
Yeah, it. Their Microsoft's relationship with the gaming world is so weird at times because it's like they care, but because they have to, not because they want to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they because you can literally watch through the Xboxes how it went from passion to like, yeah, this is our ultimate form too. We're still trying, guys. To here's a refrigerator.
It all went downhill when they tried to make the Xbox more than an Xbox. The Xbox One, the whole entertainment
Yeah,
system and stuff like that.
this is your media center PC. This is your Xbox. This is your DVD
You
player.
can
This
watch
is
TV, you can like
And not that
everything.
that isn't cool. Like that's a cool idea conceptually. But you're asking it's the same concept of why the F-35 has issues. You asked one thing to do everything. That means it's going to be meh everything. And
Hmm.
that's okay. You can still be the best at being meh everything. That's fine. But you really got to go hard if you're going to do that. And they didn't.
Because honestly, like, what would happen if gaming consoles took a step back and just took TV and like internet out of it, other than just internet for gaming at that point? A lot of
Well,
people would hate it, but it would be better at that,
I'll
which
be
it was
honest.
made for.
From my
Hi,
understanding, the
Echo.
PS5 is a lot more that way. Like, obviously, there's a Netflix app and a YouTube app on the thing because people would be upset if there wasn't. But like, its design and UI are more gaming focused, from my understanding. I've never played I haven't played a PS5 yet, but based on my experience using the PS3 and PS4, Sony's always been very heavy on the gaming is the 90% of it, but we have the apps because you asked for them.
Well,
And we don't feel
that's
like
true.
here you bitch. So
It's
actually they're doing
actually the
exactly what we
opposite of
want.
it's actually the opposite of Microsoft and what Sony's doing, and it's because Sony knows Sony Pictures is holding on by a thread
Oh
to the
yeah.
movie industry. Sony has not given out a banger movie in like over a decade. They're just
No,
wasting money.
that's a lie. Spider
What
Verse is a
movie am I
Sony's
forgetting?
movie.
Okay, I don't give them credit for that. That is them just like, this is ours because it is.
I know, yeah, I
And
know. I'm just saying that
Marvel is
was
just like,
the Spider
sure,
Verse movies are
sure it is,
bangers,
Sony. Sure it is.
but other shit they've done, no. It's
Yes,
because
those are literally only Sony movies because Sony made one good decision to buy Spider-Man in like the 80s or 90s,
it
whenever it
was a
happened.
very
I
good
think it was the
decision.
90s.
The problem with Sony is their motion pictures department really exists purely because they wanted to get their cameras and new digital technologies in the hands of directors. And they knew that the easiest way to do that was to essentially fund their films.
Hmm. Make
So
their
that's,
screens,
yeah.
make their filming equipment,
Yeah,
recording
all the editing
equipment.
equipment. Say, we'll provide all that stuff, but you have to use only our Sony branded equipment.
That is actually something Sony's always been good at, even to this day.
Oh yeah, Sony's like,
But
you must use
PlayStation
it. It must only
exclusives
be
are
Sony.
PlayStation exclusives.
Yeah, Sony,
Hmm.
Sony, Sony. We're center of the universe.
And honestly,
I
even
respect
though
them
I
the
don't
hell
really
for the
have,
fact they've stuck to it.
honestly, like thinking about it now, I've never actually thought about this because I've never really had many Sony products, but like mad respect for Sony because they are focused on their brand and they actually listen to the people who buy their products because they're like, you give us money, okay?
We'll make you
We're
everything
our
perfect for
cycle
you.
is we're gonna give
But the deal
everything to you
is
that you
you
want.
must only buy Sony products. That's the only problem is Sony's deal is like we promise a perfect tailored experience, but caveat is you can't buy anyone else's products. And you're just like that seems like a heavy caveat, guys. That
Hmm.
sounds like
And
monopolistic behavior.
I mean, honestly,
And I don't. They make great products. Almost
it's
everything they make a great version of it. Like
yeah.
we can't
It
fault Sony for trying, being like, but if you then join it all together with Sony this and a Sony this, it works even better. And that's because they developed it
well,
that way. And I honestly, it's cool they do that, but also like, guys, we can't all only buy Sony products. Never gonna happen.
well, the interesting thing is they've had always had that mentality, but and they still are nowhere close to monopolizing any industry.
Nah,
Like even
nah.
though Sony for a while was pretty big in the movie industry, they're really not that big in the movie industry anymore. They're still making stuff, but like
Well, that's
it's
because
not all always Sony now.
part of it also is Sony alienated tons of people in film industry and especially not necessarily the big film industry is hard because they don't really give a shit. They'll do shoot on whatever the fuck the studio gives them. But like the medium film industry to like commercials and stuff like that, because for a little while Sony's like Kodak for recording was locked down, so it meant only certain softwares could use it, which meant that like
Really?
if you shot on a Sony camera, you had to use a Sony memory stick, and you had to put that into your Sony memory stick reader, and then that had to
Oh
use the
my
Sony
god.
program to decode it into something. You've been seeing the thing where it's just like, oh, they made it dick-holy, where if you didn't have the Sony product, it won't work. Instead of, it's okay
Yeah.
to make everything work together as a cohesive environment,
How,
but it has to work
how
with other
long ago
shit.
did that happen?
That
How
was
long
like
ago?
right after the crash, so like 2010ish, like PS3 era, which is when
Okay.
Sony came out with. Remember that special Sony TV for the PS3 that could do 3D on? That
Honestly,
only.
no. I
Okay, well,
never
only
that was.
the PS3 could only do 3D on two devices. Some TV from some manufacturer and this Sony 3D display that was only like a 32-inch display, but because of the high refresh rate of the PS3, it interlaced
Mhm.
two things. So either you could watch it, play a game in 3D, or you could switch to a different mode where two players could play the same game, like co-op, on the same
Mhm.
screen, with just each of them having one of the glasses. So it'll just be mode 1, mode 2, and they only see their side without screen watching. It was real cool
Really?
technology. Oh, it was like bonkers shit.
Why are we not funding
But
this?
welcome to Sony. Sony does bonkers, really cool shit, but they're also giant assholes.
Like
They're the
sometimes you
coolest
really gotta
company ever,
question.
but then you read into them and go, oh, but they're jackasses? Yeah. Yeah. That's why we don't all buy
So
Sony
it's like,
products. They alienate us.
yeah.
It's like for their sound, they had like this Bluetooth sound system that I watched a review of, and it only works with Sony speakers. You can buy nothing else. And it works okay with a non-Sony TV. If you plug it into a Sony TV, it unlocks like all these extra features and modes, and also unlocks modes for the TV too. And I remember watching the review and the guy just being like, part of me loves this because it's so fucking awesome that like this is what you get. But also another part of me is like,
Mhm.
why can't I have this if I have the other display I like? He's like, this is just.
Honestly, yeah.
He's like, this is just
So
dickish.
that, yeah, that's so fucking stupid.
Like I said, I love Sony and hate them at the same time. I want them to keep making technology because they push the industry, but I'm never gonna buy their products because I know they're jackasses.
So did Sony speakers were pretty good, right? But they've kind
Sony,
of fallen
everything
out
is
of the
good.
market recently.
They have because now everything's moved to Bluetooth. They no longer are selling wired speakers like for a sound system anymore. They're using it their
And
Bluetooth
that's where
codec.
they excelled at.
Yeah, that's where they sell it. Is you got a cheaper amplifier, but you got the Sony speakers. So as long as the amplifier could drive them, they sounded great. But now they're all locked down because they all use Bluetooth. So now you have to buy your Sony receiver and amplifier with your Sony speakers and your Sony this. They've locked down more. They're becoming assholes again, and it'll kick them in the nuts when it fucks up. And they go, oh crap, we
Hmm.
can't maintain this market share like this because people are upset with us. Then they
And
change
they'll
for
be
a
like,
couple years.
okay, okay.
Okay, fine, we'll tone it down. They tone it down for 3 or 4 years. They try again.
They
They've
ma-
been doing it for
they
years.
tone it down for a little bit. They put out the PS6, then they as a distraction, and then they
Yeah.
go back to that.
Well, because also happened in the mid 2000s. Remember the Vivo laptops from Sony?
No.
Okay, well, they're like really stylized.
I
But
did not have a laptop until college, so
that's fair.
2013.
So you might not have been paying attention to the market. Also, you were an Xbox gamer.
Yeah,
You really didn't care about Sony's laptops.
not at all.
So Sony's laptops at one point had like some proprietary connectors just after USB became standard. And everyone was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? And also, at
Like,
one
we
point, they did.
just made this.
At one point, you only could use memory stick, like their Sony's proprietary memory thing, and you couldn't use SD
Mhm.
cards. And everyone's like, why am I going to buy your laptop, Sony? I can't use it with my shit. I have to buy your shit to use my laptop. Fuck off. And they also had special features as the PS2 and then the PS3 in the laptop. Like, it's all these things where Sony does all these cool interconnect things, but they also being jackasses. Then they cooled off for PS3 generation. Went, look, we're compatible. Then they were
PS4
again.
launched, and then it beat out the Xbox One because Xbox One.
And then they added in the second generation PS4 a whole bunch of features that only were available with Sony TVs.
Yeah, and also started launching banger exclusives that I've never got to play, but just watch YouTube videos of.
It's the struggle.
Oh,
man.
by
Let's
the
stop
way,
bragging on Sony. I could do that for hours.
Mountain Dew, Liberty Chill, go USA.
Oh, I guess we can talk about the United States of America and our state of the union.
I knew you would take that cue, Conlan.
Yeah, you did a great job, Bryan.
Brought to you by Mountain Dew. Please sponsor us.
Not right now. I don't want to talk. I don't want money from Pepsi Cola. That has blood on it. That has the blood of Ukrainian children on it. I don't need that money right now. It's a whole separate fucking conversation that I don't think I have the energy to talk about right now because it's just upsetting.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'll deal with it at a later date. The state of our union. The world's a little wild right now.
State of the Union address.
The world's a little wild right now. And though guns are cool, they do not actually solve problems. Unless it is an armed conflict between two nations. Because that's separate. Because that has that has like an international definition. There's labeled combatants. There's rules on how war is committed. Us people, we don't do that. We yell. We can scream and yell and be assholes and have what the fuck opinion you want. We're America. Freedom. What a clip.
Freedom. Fuck you.
But that doesn't give you the right to try and end someone's life. Even if I don't like the guy. Even if some parts of me made jokes, I'd be like, man, how did you miss that fat orange head? Because I don't like the guy. He's a piece of shit. But the presidential election should be decided by our votes, not by murdering either of the parties involved.
Now, if one or both of them died of natural causes, such as old age,
to be honest,
sweet.
This is like me and Chris have been saying recently. I'd vote for Joe Biden's dead body at this point. As long as I can vote in my next election, I'm good. This one is just to bide time.
It really is.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with bide time versus destruction of the world.
Bide in time. Bide in time. We're bide in time. How is nobody capitalized on that?
Okay, Bryan, we're gonna have to send we'll have to send them to the campaign group, or we're gonna be hired because the dark branded meme people are gonna love it.
Yo, that is actually a perfect slogan for the Democratic Party right now.
Biden to the next election. Also makes a joke how ineffective they are sometimes.
Yeah, I make good jokes sometimes.
You're not funny, Bryan, but sometimes you nail a real good one. You got a good banger.
Dude, the assassination attempt though, it's like I feel like that just swayed that sways so many people over to his side.
It disappeared within minutes, by the way. Because it was an initial but that sway is just a temporary the media frenzying over the newest thing to frenzy about, because that's what media does today, unfortunately. Modern media no longer reports facts or facts with some opinions spread in. Now it's just pure opinions. There's no facts involved at all, and because that sells better and makes people go crazy.
And there's bias because the channels that always try to like make something, oh, the other side is doing this, and this person was tied to them, so that they also feel this way.
Yeah, clearly, it's
This
clearly all of them,
shooter.
which is both sides are doing so badly right now. Clearly, because this man
Yeah,
believes this, every single of that party believes this, and then both sides yell at each other that way. And it's like, no one does that. Everyone has their own opinions. Everyone has their own merits. Though, if they are an asshole, do please call them out on it.
And it's freaking crazy that there are actual like some conservative Republican, like I don't even know if they're all MAGA heads or if they're just like crazy right wing, like far right wing people, but like they want to like make Christianity the religion of the United States, and I'm like, we literally have been built on the principle of freedom of religion.
As
You have
well as
whatever
separation
religion
of
the
church and
fuck you
state.
want. Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
The
there's a
church
separation,
is.
but nowhere as strong as our forefathers wanted.
Hmm.
But they weren't.
You know how much the churches benefit from the government?
Oh, at this point, yeah, I understand that. I'm not stupid. Um, but that's a whole separate thing. Just read. How's this? Everyone, just read Project 2025. Those are not guarantees. Obviously, that would be disingenuous for me to say that this is exactly what's gonna happen because, like, we do still live in a democracy, even when it does its fucky wuckiness. In the likelihood
Hmm.
that the House and the Senate go right wing with Trump is so low based on all the polling I've seen that even if he were to win, he would not have a House or Senate. It would be a completely split thing. And I already can see that's going to happen. So he would be able to make the executive very strong and fucky wucky and mess up how the executive is supposed to work in this country. But he only could do so much. As only
Yeah.
positive, but still fight. I'm not saying don't. Go read
Yeah.
that. Some of those things would never be able to be enacted as long as they didn't, as long as it wasn't full control of like all the branches of government, which is just not possible in how a democracy works. It's a good thing our forefathers did is they set up the system so you have to royally fuck up to completely light it all on fire, but you can make it non-functional temporarily because of someone being an asshole. That is, which is designed to. It'd rather become non-functional than become evil.
True. Non-functional, but that's actually good.
And that's pretty much where we're at.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is a really sad state of where we are in it as a
It's
country, because
solvable. We just
you
need to
and
all
I
stop being
you,
jackasses.
you and I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, where honestly it's crazy. I've always been
I had,
more
this is
like
weird to say.
I've
I
been.
didn't think about President Bush ever. Admittedly, I was a child for a large portion of his time as president. But
Mhm.
even when we got to the point in life where like in school where we began focusing on civics, he wasn't the only like we talk about President Bush once every 3 months, be like, oh yeah, President Bush said this. Oh, that's cool. Well, we talked about every other
Mhm.
political figure for like decades. I know it's because they're trying to fully introduce us into history, but like I feel like kids nowadays talking to them, they hear about the office of the president every day,
Yeah,
regardless of who it is,
seriously,
for the past
in
decade. Since the last 2 years of the Obama administration, all the way up to now, people have talked about the president every day, even during early Obama administration. I remember I paid attention to the news at that point because we were in sixth through, all the way through high school. So for us, it was something we interacted with every day if we ever did social studies
mhm.
projects. So I just kept up on the
And also
news.
because we were in the age of, YouTube and videos on the internet and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like that
learning
around that
learning about
time.
how politics worked, and we grew up in kind of a divisive time, so all of our parents kind of pushed us to learn it kind of early because of the quote divisive times that were beginning. That was the beginning, dude. It was not bad back then. It was divisive, but everyone's like, whatever. No one was killing no one over anything. It was like, I'm just a little annoyed that blah 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 won.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm not
it's
gonna
it's
harm
it's
anyone. I'm just pissed off.
and it is crazy because like
Now it's like I will
yeah,
kill a motherfucker.
but like seriously, we were. we were kids back then, and even though we were kids, we still would have known. We still were in society.
Well, yeah, yeah.
We
Well, as
like
I said, I
the
work with kids because
people
I'm
really
a professional
weren't
volunteer.
that people really weren't that crazy about
Yeah,
politics. I felt growing up the way society made me feel was that okay, we are a society that can have different opinions and you debate them. I was really interested in debates when I was in early
yeah.
schooling. Like it's such a cool thing, but nowadays it really is.
You're just
My
wrong.
opinion is fact, you are wrong. It's like okay, there's no room for growth when you have that
Yeah,
mentality.
which means nothing gets done, even if I do so. I'm going to have to phrase this appropriately. Though I do not believe in any way, shape, or form any modern ideas of right, the modern right. I'm not knocking all of conservatism because I actually have ideals that line up with real conservatism, but that's not what today is. That's not what we have anymore. That's dead. We have we have this Christian theology bullshit. Okay, none
Yeah,
of that.
honestly, it's crazy. Hold on, pause for what? Pause for what? Hold your thought. Remember,
I'll do my best.
uh, like, I always got that like vibe from you when we were early friendship that you were had more conservative vibes than me. I had a little bit more liberal vibes. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I mean, let's see. That's not what we have today.
Sorry.
But let's say those ideas were actually going to make society better. I don't believe they will in any way, shape, or form. Based on everything I've seen, it'll bring society backwards and push us closer towards countries that clearly aren't functioning correctly, like Russia and China, which we are not. We're clearly
Hmm.
may not be doing 100%, but our economy works. It's not perfect, but it has some room for growth. But we can solve that. That's easy, relatively. That's just some
Yeah.
and playing around, and we'll get there in a couple of years. But nuking the growth we've made will make everything go backwards, and then we still will never
Yeah.
figure out what the tweaks to fix it are. Because I think they still like, okay, we're gonna nuke it, and then we're gonna do the tweaks. And you're like, you nuked it, bud. You don't even know what the controls are anymore. You're playing with an Xbox controller, but it's the PS4 controller over that's on. You don't know what's happening. There's no
And
learning curve. You've been punched in the face. So, like, then should bring that to a debate, not to no, we're right and we're gonna try it, and if you don't like that, that sucks. And you're like here, and I'd like things to work tomorrow. So maybe nuking it's not the answer, and that's how people are acting now, and it's ridiculous. And that's not the answer. Things take patience
yeah.
and time and consideration. And it's
Hmm.
actually, I might not like Joe Biden in many ways, but he is patient. He has lots of
Almost a
patience.
little too
Yeah,
patient.
it's to the point where sometimes I'm like, bud, you need to get a little more aggressive, hun.
Yeah. It, it's I don't know. It's sad to talk about on these things because
Well,
you
then let's
can
talk
see
about
how
America in a
we could
positive
get
light.
back to that. I really, well, I just want to say it, people, we need to be more accepting of change because I feel like with new things that come around, there's always going to be like people who like don't wanna accept it and they want to hold on to the old ways, but like once something's introduced, it's here. So you got to accept that it's here and then maybe just make decisions on like how and everything about it. You can debate the opinions on it.
Sorry, I'm getting
No, I
annoyed at
realized you
Twitter.
spaced out. Sorry.
I was getting busy being annoyed at Twitter for a second. I was trying to find
No.
something to like be excited about, and only news of JD Vance being vice president pick for Donald Trump was on my feed, and I was like, "That's not positive. That's
I
the
saw the
worst choice. Out of
notification
all
pop
the
up on my
choices,
phone.
that was the worst choice possible.
Yeah,
Every other choice is better."
I saw that notification and I was like, nope. And I just swiped and closed it. I'm like, that's a tomorrow or later this week issue.
I'll look into that later. I don't need. I didn't think the news could be that bad, to be honest. I thought that was the joke one. In
Can
my
someone
head,
please tell me this is the fake news source, please?
yeah, this is just like some gaff. You know, sometimes you see something, you're like, oh, thank God that was a gaff. And this time you're like, please? No? That's what we're going with. Okay. Well, I guess that made this easier in some ways.
We now know who it is.
Ever since the whole Judge Cannon dismissing the case on pretty much no ruling at all, which is going to get overturned. It just won't get overturned before the election because they'll have to go through the whole whatever you call it, appeals process and stuff. And that'll take time. It's just not you can do that. We all knew that court case was not going to be done before the election. It never was going to be. It's too big of a case. It's going to take so much time. There's so much evidence that it's very hard to deal with a case like that. That's the problem. There's too much evidence where it almost makes the case too bulky to get through the court system. So it makes it hard to punish someone.
If he becomes president, can he just, hey, let's forget about that case?
Well, they won't charge him while he's president. It will sit in purgatory. The case will continue to spin its wheels and be built because it would be very hard for him to fire everyone at the Department of Justice to do that. It's possible, but he would be impeached before that would happen. They'd be like, yeah, that's an overreach of power. No. You can't blanket fire half the Department of Justice. You can't do that. Because if they're not political appointees and you begin like nuking non-political appointees, they notice. Because some people move up just through the structure, and some people are appointees, and those two people who have moved up and appointees work together to make the rules. That's how most of these organizations work. Is you have the long timers who've worked their way to this position of management and appointees. And if you begin nuking all the non-appointees in the system and only then putting in appointees, people go, you can't do that. That's not how it technically is supposed to work. If anyone else did that, you'd be so angry your head would pop. So just so you know, I feel that way. So don't do that, and it won't happen that way because people won't have you'd stir up so much trouble. So that's the only good thing is there's only so much that can be done evilly that the system has checks and balances and it will fight back, and people will fight back if shit like that happens. They'll get upset and they'll go to the court systems, and states will begin shouting because then you have state governments get involved, and when state governments get involved, because each individual state is sovereign in the United States of America, they can actually do things and sue the federal government. And then mediators have to come in throughout the other states who have to be like, oh, well, we pick a judge from California to press through this case of the United States government versus Connecticut. Our court,
is that what this is going to come to? Is that our future, Goblin?
It's part of the reason the media wants Donald Trump to win is they know that the news coverage will never stop and they'll just make tons of money. Even if they get killed in the process, the amount of money they'll make, they'll be able to be like, nah, here, you made me all this money. If I pay you off, will you not kill me?
I hate journalism nowadays.
That's modern journalism. Well, it's because there's not journalists. Everything's run by hosts and personalities. It's media personalities, not journalists who are being on the air.
I wanted to be a journalist, but then I just saw the direction.
I can't imagine how much this upsets you as a person who has journalistic integrity.
I was going to school for creative writing and learning journalism, so when I come out, I could go into journalism and do things like that.
That creative writing degree would have been perfect as a journalist, since all it's made up anyways.
Halfway through college, I saw where journalism was going. And I said, no thanks. like I think the turning point for me was journalists going over to like foreign countries and like the beheading, capture and beheading. That was the start of, okay, I definitely wouldn't do foreign journalism. But then people started making threats like that to journalists in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, and I'm like, okay, I will. I don't want death threats. Like, I really don't
It's
want that just for
so this
doing
is a
my
weird thing to
job.
say. If you are not always, let me preface some include there's some things that have to happen together or else it doesn't work. If you are a journalist and you're getting death threats, either it means you're doing your job really, really, really well, or you're so grossly incompetent that people need you to go away because you are harming society as a whole.
Yes.
There's no middle ground. It's either you have such a great journalistic integrity that companies who need you dead because you've ruined them, or countries or stuff like, he knows too much, he must go, or it's he knows so little that he's a threat to society for existing just because he's going to make
He
people
knows
look
so
dumb.
little. He knows so little, and yet he has so much reach.
Yeah,
Much like what's that
Alex
fucking
Jones.
no, that
Oh,
like child sex trafficking ring guy from another country who like inspires all the younger boys about
oh, Andrew Tate.
masculinity. Andrew Tate.
My brain had to be like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, the guy who got arrested in Romania because he's a rapist and many other bad things. He's a terrible person.
He
I always had the vibes he was a terrible person, but like, wow, unsurprised.
he is spreading so much
And yeah, I
toxicity
have
into
one of
the
my
younger
scouts is one of those
generation.
people who like listens to his shit and Ben Shapiro and all those fucking alpha. That's a thing that exists within humans, a very different species than wolves. Doesn't
Where
exist
the
amongst our
guy who
species.
came up with the guy who came up with the concept of alpha wolves disproved his own theory, but society didn't want to listen because
I don't know.
masculinity. But
It's
things like that, he gets
humans are
he
stupid.
probably,
Okay,
but
that's just the truth.
he is on that spectrum of you like obviously wouldn't want wish somebody to murder somebody, but if there was somebody
But
to just drop dead, like, like honestly, we grew up with the concept of spontaneous combustion.
yeah, just
I I feel like I should have heard a story of somebody spontaneously
we
combusting
don't live
in
in
at least my
Russia.
state. So it's first off that basically disproves spontaneous combustion. But but if somebody were to spontaneously combust, it should be people who spread toxicity into the world, like Andrew Tate.
Nah, instead, you be like Anzalira and you just die in a Ukrainian prison from pneumonia because you're 3 pack a day smoker and your whole life, and then move to Eastern Europe where it's damp all the time, which makes it more likely for you to get pneumonia.
Mhm. All right, but hey, we have like 20 minutes left before I have to go. Why don't we talk
Talk about D and
about
D. Yeah,
last week's session?
I don't
Oh
remember
my
most of
God,
it.
Conlan, you don't?
There's so little.
Were you blacked out?
I wasn't blacked out, but I was definitely very high. I was more high than I should have been for
Mhm.
what we were doing. Which like every time it came to my turn, I was like, "Oh crap! Okay, I turn every throttle to 11. We're gonna boost our brain
So
through this and hope for the best."
So really quickly, I'll do a really quick
Yeah, do a little
recap of
recap. I
through the
remember
combat,
enough of it, but give me your moments you
and then
remembered
you can
most.
tell, and then you tell me if there was anything that you would have done differently if you were sober.
Oh, I would have made the
uh,
same choices probably. I just would have been more annoyed by it. I was high enough where I was like,
well,
this all sucks, but we're doing our best.
well,
I would have been
so
pissed off if I was sober.
the darkness was appearing like in the corner, and Seabreeze dropped Moonbeam over there. uh, that group said fan out, so the second group separated and hopped down on the wall to sneak over to you guys, and nobody was able to see that because the smoke was below the wall.
I misused Jin
Then
Rash for a turn. That's something that pisses me off. Is I was thinking of getting
oh
up
yeah,
onto
you
the
made him run
wall.
up the wall.
Yeah, I was thinking
Hmm.
because you notice I ended up doing that anyways with Jin Rash, but I wish I did it a turn earlier. And I had that feeling just as I ended his turn. I was like, I think I should have gone on the wall. Like that's the one regret I wish I did because then I would have been closer and he would have been able to jump into the vampires and been like, "Hey guys,"
Yeah, that
because he could have
was
just
one
reckless attacked
thing.
everywhere. And even though he would have, Jin Rash would have gotten hurt, he would have been in rage, reckless attacking. Like he'd be in
And
a pretty good
also,
shape, as well as he could just
and
breath weapon
also,
people next to him.
yeah, and also, I would have reminded you because you probably would have forgotten that he could do that. Like he's practicing for
Yeah,
that
yeah, no, I
multi hit.
that's what I knew I was
But
going to use that too. That's
so
why I was
I let
trying to
him.
get him to jump in between them. If you notice, all my movement was to try and jump between two vampires so he could do one of those attacks. But
You
I
know,
just kept timing it wrong.
yeah, you know
I
how
was a turn
crazy that
behind the
would
whole
have
game.
been. That would have been so crazy.
I know I'm pissed. It's
I, I
that I remember
be-
that being pissed off in that.
because too that vampire leader that was in that group was a mage. So barbarian versus mage and his spawn. That would have been fun. He didn't have a not Jinrash does not have a non-magical or a magical weapon though. Uh oh wait, actually he does. He has the lightning rod, which is a magical weapon. So you could have whipped out that spear and been stabbing them with it.
Yeah, I had to get to them first. I was gonna take my first
Yeah.
attack with the axe, like whump, because I wanted to get through that attack cycle using only the axe for his first one, and then I was gonna switch to the lightning spear because I know it also has an AOE. And at that point, they'd all be attacking Jinrash. So he'd be like, okay,
Mhm.
AoE, AoE. And they'd be like, even if he got unconscious, he'd hit so much damage out of them that they wouldn't be much of a threat for everyone else. That was my goal. I was essentially going
Yeah.
to spend Jinrash's much higher HP to just sit there and piss him off and distract them. I was going to try and be the big distraction.
Well, what would you have done if Rash died while you were in control of it?
If, well, you mean Jinrash? You said Naresh.
Yeah. No. Oh, I thought I said Jinrash. Jinrash.
No, it's okay. I was just like, that's the wrong one. Uh, we're tired. It's fucking 5 in the morning.
Also,
Um,
if you say Jinrash with little enthusiasm, it comes out Jinrash.
yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what it
So
was.
that sounds like Narash.
Yeah. Um, so I wouldn't have cared. I would.
You would have been like, sorry, Bryan.
I'm in control of bracket. Well, who cares? I'm in control of the healer too. So I just go, oh no, wake up, asshole! Wake like
Um,
legitimately. That's all it would
but
be. I was
so
in control of the healer as well. That's the fun of playing two characters, and you're like, okay, now I'm a strategist.
Also, so that combat continued with the first black aura jumping down and surrounding Eileen. Knock and Vayne were useless. I'm sorry, Vicky. You for the first like 3 turns, Vicky did nothing. Like everything that they tried failed, and I felt so bad for them.
It's what
Like
made me
it.
nervous about moving Jinrash and Bracket, and why I messed up that one turn. Was I'm like, is staying in place just a better option to try and stop them? And I
Mhm.
pretty much was misjudging. I second guessed my strategy, and I should have done my send Jinrash off. Bracket will be standing watch, but I waited
You
one turn before I
guys
made that choice.
you guys would have been more effective if you stayed together as a group, I feel.
Yeah, we were
Like you
defending the
guys
back
needed
of
to
the
be
promise was
closer.
unnecessary.
Yeah, you guys needed to be closer as a group, like still taking your space, but you guys were on opposite battlefields.
Yeah,
So
it's because we misinterpreted the threat. Which honestly, good job for the vampires. You did a great job on your strategy, Bryan. Send an initial attack over the wall, distract them in the back, and then have the secondary team come in and do what needs to be
mhm,
done. And Brackett
mhm.
saw that happening, which is why he didn't move, and he went, I hear all this like noise over there, and I do not like it.
I loved that scene. I hope you remember this scene, but when you're having that moment of if you stop there, you were thinking about divine sensing, but then you were like, no, it won't sense through the wall. And then you said you just end your turn. And I kind of like put a moment in there of like you hold up your hand for a moment before like realizing faltering. Like you look up the statue of Zytalia and then you get your sword and your shield ready. To me, that was Brackett's moment of something's coming from over there, and I am the only one here to defend the promise.
Yeah, Brackett's like, this sucks. I don't have a plan. It's one of those. He has his plan is to have no plan. I'm gonna stand
Will
here and I'm gonna
Brackett
swing, and that's about all I've thought ahead of.
um will Brackett aim to be stronger because of this failure?
I don't know if stronger is the right word, but he will aim to try and become more powerful. He just likes that he doesn't have enough magic. So he might push for
So,
more magic-y paladin features,
mhm.
Because
To
you
like
can tell
thinking
that
more
just
about his
using a sword
spells
and
and stuff like
whacking at the
that.
guys wasn't enough.
Just thinking about that stuff, maybe magically enhancing weapons and stuff like that. Um,
Even
going
though
back to
I don't think Brackett can get Moonbeam, but saying like Moonbeam, where he's like, I want an ability to be like, okay, we're doing that and swinging, doing that and swinging.
no, you can't get that, but
I know.
look into Crusader's Mantle. It's a fun paladin spell it's a third level spell, so you'll get that in a couple levels. But Crusader's Mantle is a pretty fun spell.
Yeah, but he's realizing I'm realizing too. Even though Rain didn't have any magic, I like magic because Rain like had the essence of like vibing with magic, but never actually having any magic herself inherently. She uses items, but that's about it.
Yeah. Um. So after the black darkness came in, Eileen was very quickly overwhelmed.
Who would have
Uh,
guessed?
got got stabbed, bitten, clawed, and like knocked very low on health. Oliver kept backing up and like avoiding the vampires and
Man,
trying some area
nothing
to
against
help.
Andrew because I just know he's not used to playing this character in combat yet, so I don't blame him fully. And also, his character technically couldn't really see people, and a whole bunch of his spells are you see a person and do this. So he's just sitting there like, I don't see jack shit. I can't use the spell. I'm essentially
But
blinded.
that's the thing too.
It just had him
He
locked
could
up for a
try
couple
to
episodes.
ask he could try to ask like, "Hey, I can't like see it, but I'm gonna aim for the wall behind that right there.
Yeah,
Can I attack with disadvantage?" I'd probably say, "Yeah, go for it."
yeah.
But like he has to start thinking of those things. And honestly, I'm glad his first combat as a wizard was difficult. Well, not his first, his second. Uh, technically fourth if you include our session 0 from way back when. But like second as real like as a full party, it was difficult for him. So I hope he like
He also doesn't know how to balance with the rest of us yet.
strategizes.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to balance out the
Yeah.
rest of us yet either. Um,
Um. So after then the major vampire left Eileen to be devoured by one of the other vampires and started moving to the front of the promise. Uh, the other group with the mage superseded Jinrash, who hopped up on the wall and went down and knocked Brackett unconscious very
that
quickly.
I know.
Yeah, that was it was just it was a you get overwhelmed. It was you versus four guys.
I did my
So it was
best. It
mhm.
made me.
You
I think it
got
made
back
Bracket.
up.
I made Bracket want stronger armor, to be honest, because he didn't feel scared. He was just like, it would be a lot nicer if less of those were those attempted hits or like near hits, like you hit. But man, if I was
Mhm.
just a little, that armor came up an inch higher, or it's that vibe he had. He's like, just a little bit more, and I would have been less beat up, and I would have been okay.
uh, I want
Because the
to
hits
tell
weren't
you,
like even just adding the like had he
so
done Shield of Faith on himself, that still wouldn't have been
mhm.
enough to stop their attacks. He needs that plus Shield of Faith, some more armor plus Shield of
I
Faith.
I want to let you know that I gave the paladin vampire a magical set of plate armor. So she would be challenging, but if you guys did overcome her somehow, then you could take her armor. She was wearing +1 armor of radiant resistance. So it gave resistance to radiant damage, which
Damn it!
you already take resistance to radiant damage, but I'm a fan of doing quarter damage at that point. So hey, it would make you even more immune to radiant damage, especially like your ability to like burst to like radiant effect, which you should have done that. You should have done the radiant thing.
I know.
Um,
If I had one more turn of combat that was actually combat, I was going to do it. I just became
yeah,
unconscious.
uh, but
I was
but her
busy
armor was
being unconscious, Brian.
But yeah, it was +1 plate armor, giving you resistance to radiant damage. So that's a base AC of 19, plus your shield 21, plus shield of faith 23.
Yeah, then I would have been like, okay, cool, because then the spawn wouldn't have really hit me, and they would have been just inconveniences to be near, and I could have focused on
Hmm.
attacking. That was the problem, is those spawns kept hitting me for small little nick amount of damage, but it was all of them, because each got
I
two
f-
like claw attacks, and it wasn't a lot of damage each,
mhm.
but it just kept adding. You also nat 20'd on like two of them too, so you doubled. I was like, God,
Yeah,
fuck me, fuck
yeah.
me. You nat 20'd
Honestly,
against me
my
more than
dice,
once.
my dice here. I'm sorry.
I wasn't upset. I was just like, God damn it! I'm like, I'm not getting hit by like the main attacker. I'm getting just killed by these spawn.
Yeah, I haven't had a good session of just like good rolls the entire time, and I got that last time.
Yeah, you rolled high almost every roll, so you beat my armor class like every single roll, and then you rolled like two nat 20s. I was just like, fuck, I can't stop
Do
that.
you? Yeah. Do you so Bracket might want to focus on getting magical armor and magical weaponry and stuff like that. Do
Essentially,
you
upping
think
his hitting
Bracket might
and defense power.
start like doing for hire stuff on the way to his goals, like hey, if somebody says escort them, you'll get this amount of gold for that. Hey, if you go and
I think he's
stop
gonna
this thing.
do it more because of his interactions of with the now I can't say it this morning. The guard, what it's called, I can't say its name.
Oh,
Apparently,
Meowchiker.
yeah, my brain's just glitching out on trying to say it.
Meowchiker.
I normally can say it. I'm just a little high. My mouth ain't working. Uh, so he's begun to respect them and kind of respect the fact that they're the troops, and he sees that this is might not based on how many conflicts he's been in. He's seen that this is more than just some fight a group can do. This is a fight that a nation will have to take on the effort of as well, not just him and his bros. Like him and his bros can finalize it, but like we can't do everything. There's only six of us. Like there's only so much we can do, guys. We can't fight all of the
Mhm.
undead ever.
True.
So he's kind of seeing that
It was
allying
a
with
nice plan too. The vampires got around them. They, just so you know, there are some dead guards out in the wood because they kept the outer perimeter guard, but they just murdered a couple of guards and then came to the promise. Sorry for cutting you off. Is
that's
the
fine. It's okay.
information I'm
Bracken
pretty
was
sure
gonna.
Brackett probably would have thought of at that point, like because he heard the message from the guy who came into the tavern. All soldiers stationed anywhere but the perimeter are asked to go to the barracks.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he's gonna complain about. He's like, people should have been at the promise. Clearly, they've been attacking the promise. Why was there not a group assigned to just stand there all night?
Hmm
If they'd had a small platoon, the vampires would have stood no chances. All the paladins with their stacking stats going, hey, want us to swing at you? We don't need to see. We'll just keep swinging.
Yeah, they are gonna take that's one final thing before I do have to start getting ready for work, unfortunately, is that this is gonna be Nan's first failure as the head of the council.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is gonna be, so
Because
Brackett is gonna. I know I played Rain as a political person, but Brackett, it's realistic as the paladin soldier goes. Oh, I can't just be a gun for hire. I need to work with the existing military. I just am a subcontractor. They just bring me
Mhm.
in when you need me. So he's gonna kind of, like in some movies and shows I'm sure you've seen, where instead of the hero working against the existing organization, he goes, I'll just work with them because that's easier. They have
you
resources.
know you know what Brackett should do, which would be interesting? Like, obviously take a interest in Ladris needs to be protected and I can't be here all the time. He should pull Nan to the side. Like, Nan has something to give him anyway. Like, there was already a
Yeah.
moment, but like maybe some way for Nan and Brackett to stay in communication or something like that. So like you can tell Nan certain things.
I'm gonna
He
tell
can.
Nan that you can talk more. Muri, I can say her name. Has a way to communicate with us, and if you need to get a message to us immediately, go through her. Because we at this point implicitly trust her, probably more than we should. If you make her the big bad, I will immediately turn off the stream and say that never happened, Bryan.
Um.
I would be pissed.
Oh. So one. Okay. Actual final comment
Yeah, final note.
because I
Go.
thought
Sorry.
I would like. Oh, no worries. You know that little communication you have between Muri, and yourself was from Trell,
Oh, so
and
I
it
could get
was a
another one.
little.
Okay. I didn't
There
think
there
about that.
may be another one. There
It's been
may
so
be a way to
long.
get another one.
Okay, we might get another one and get one for him.
Trell has those very tiny ones for communication and small travel, and then she also has bags that act as mini bags of holding. They can't hold as much weight, but they're linked bags, so you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
share them with a party.
No, we want those. I just don't think we have enough money for them yet.
And you got to start contracting and doing work for hire and
Well, I
getting
say
gold.
I'm gonna work a little bit
Maybe
with the government. I might even ask, hey, you should make me a provisional lieutenant, so that way I have some say over guards. I am the hero of time, and I sometimes might not be like, you guys, go, and I go, can you do that? Well, he has lieutenant
send
bars.
me
I guess so.
homework. Homework. Send me a little bit of stuff like knowledge into how that works in military stuff, like
Yeah, provisional
rankings and that
military ranking.
appointee,
Yeah.
and just so I know, and absolutely, if you ask that, I'm sure, honestly, after this failure, Nan will probably be willing to give you, even Broderick probably after
Because he'd be
that.
like, okay,
So
yeah, we need a liaison between the civilians in the area and our military, and it seems it's this kid. Bracket. Well, he's not a
yeah, they
kid,
need.
but to Broderick, he's a kid.
Yeah. All right, Conlon. Hey, Oh yeah, there's other people here. It's not just us talking.
Sorta. I think it's still just us and Casey's computer.
Let's see. Yeah, and my computer, even though it still just says one viewer.
Yeah. But this is a good time, Brian. We will try for this next week, maybe. We're going to try and do 2 in a row just to see if we can do that, or see if that's way too much for us.
Might fall on if it's a lot, we might do a 2-week cycle, but we are going to be making DisasterCast regularly, hopefully, so it stays no, it's going to overtake. I want it to overtake the amount of sessions on the Misfit Warriors because they're on 29 now. This is 28. So
and that's okay.
We gotta
we also will try and do them not just in the morning, but we're gonna occasionally, maybe we'll rotate every once in a while to doing one with like Vicky and some people at night, like Vicky and Andrew, who are more of a night people, because I can host that one no problem, and we'll do it with them too. So it's not just me and Brian. We're also gonna bring in Callum. We're see if we can get mains in occasionally. We're actually gonna.
Callum would be more likely to come in here with us.
Yeah, Callum will be in the morning. Maybe Andrew in the morning. Sometimes Andrew doesn't want to do it, and you can tell he's kind of like, I regret every choice I've ever made.
Why did I agree to this?
He's usually fine by the end, but in the beginning he's like.
All right, but hey, we will do this more regularly for those of you who are watching this after the fact, because nobody watched it now. Thank you. Interesting things to come. One thing we didn't get to that I wanted to talk a little bit about is I'm probably going to start streaming a Pokemon Randomizer Nuzlocke on this channel. I gotta figure out how to solo stream because I am not the tech paladin. But yeah, we'll look forward to that coming soon. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.